Hi, Scott. Thanks for sending through those representative pages from the work that you've been doing. That really helps me to see how far you've got and how your skills are progressing. It always feels a bit daunting when you first start because you just think what you are trying to do feels like it's so far beyond what your skills are able to achieve. And the sad reality is that actually that feeling never goes away. You always feel like if I could just, my skills would just meet what my imagination is trying to do. But it does get better. So thanks for this, and also for the background on what your plan is in terms of character, concept, age, and so on. So we'll talk a little bit about that because a 10-year-old boy has some specific challenges or things that you might want to think about. Looking at this, you've gone on to handle the follow your nose concept really well. And the only thing that I would add here, which wasn't in the very basic mini course that you had, is just one wants to start adding in the neck, because adding in the neck allows you to see or to get a sense immediately of what you can do with your head. So say with this one, if we put the neck like this, you can see that that's quite a difficult angle to get the neck to do. So just by having to put the neck in, you get a sense of, is this character going to be leaning over, perhaps? Maybe with his hand in his pocket like this? Or is there going to be something else going on? Because his neck needs to fit into his body, okay? Or join his head to his body. Similarly with this one, you can see that that is a heck of an angle for the head to be up at. So if we go like this and we think, okay, if we put the neck in like this, and then we say, all right, we want that person to be looking up like that, having the neck in already enables us to get a sense of how we can angle the nose, but have it still be realistic in terms of the neck. Okay, I hope I'm making sense with that. So again, with this one, the nose is pointing right downwards. What are we going to do with the neck? Is it going to be like this? Is it going to be sort of imagining the person is standing vertically? That's going to be quite a tricky one. This one is easier to fit in. This one, very easy to fit in. This one, not sure. Is the neck going to be like that? This one, the neck could be like this. The head's on one side. That's quite a fun angle. This one, the neck can be vertical like this. This one, we wouldn't really even see the neck. It's kind of, we've got a bird's eye view on the front of his face. This one, we might see like a little bit of neck coming down like that underneath him. So having the neck or having a sense of where am I going to put the neck is a good thing to do as you go through this. And the other thing that you want to think about is, so let's think about a 10-year-old boy. I did have a little chuckle at the photo you sent me, because that usually is the idea, which clearly I didn't communicate well, is if you've got an actual person in mind, send a photograph of that person so that I can compare your final sketch to the human that you want your cartoon to portray. But this teddy is probably not the 10-year-old boy you had in mind, but not to worry. What I did was I went and had a look on the good old Google Images. I just looked for 10-year-old boys standing portraits, okay? And I'm not sure what your lad looks like, but I would say that he's probably got a short haircut, judging from what you were using as your possibilities. So maybe something like this, pretty short hair here. This one's, his hair is, I guess, a little fuller. This guy's got really short hair, but we're only seeing him from the waist up. So what I notice with most of these boy photos is 10-year-old boys, well, having a longer body, it's quite a good idea to have that T-shirt pretty long. So this one's got stripes, vertical stripes, always a little trickier than horizontal, but we'll deal with that. And then I don't know whether he'd probably be wearing quite baggy trousers like this, jeans. I live in jeans. A lot of my kids also lived in jeans when they were 10ish. So maybe he wears jeans. And those are kind of baggier, and if we get the legs to overlap like this, it looks better than having a big gap between the legs. The other thing, if we just look at these lads, they're often 10-year-old boys still have quite indistinct faces, so they don't have strong jaw kind of lines. Their ears often look a bit big in relation to their bodies. Their eyes are still relatively big in relation to the size of their faces. So they just generally have just quite soft features. They're only just starting to go into that pre-puberty time when their jaws start to be more defined. So if we keep the eyes pretty much halfway up the face like this, and the ears quite low on the sides of the face, we keep the age lower. And then also relative fullness for the hairline, because as soon as the hairline recedes towards the back of the hair, you start to age your character, because obviously as men get older, if they are going to have a receding hairline, quite often that starts as early as their early 20s. So receding hairline is always going to make your character look older. If they've got very, very short hair like this, a close crop, obviously that tends to frame the face differently, and there can be that sense of no fringe, no bangs, as I know it's called in the States. But again, big eyes and relatively low ears, a soft jawline is what is going to save your character from looking older than you want it to. So if we hop in and take a look at your final, let's go and look at this. What's going to happen here is, again, you don't want your 10-year-old boy is going to have, as I said, a relatively big head in comparison to the rest of his body, relatively narrow shoulders in comparison, because the shoulders haven't started filling out yet. So if you go with wide shoulders like this to a wide waist, you're going to have an older looking person. So I would suggest that we go with narrower shoulders. We're going to have a longish t-shirt like this. So we take the t-shirt down like that. And then if we go with sort of rumpled trousers like that to the waist, to the hem, because that's how the kids seem to wear them these days, with a little bit of extra wrinkles around the ankles. They tend to sit like that. And then in terms of the arms or the shoulders like this, if we bring the body down like that, have a hand like this on the side, a hint of an arm on this side, and we want a relatively, again, because 10 years old is not very old yet, we want a relatively narrow neck, because the neck again only starts to fill out and get that more distinct, a heavier kind of weighty look a bit later. So we're going to keep the ear low down on the head like that. I'm imagining that he's looking slightly towards his counterparts there. So I'm going to keep his nose again also relatively small, because their noses don't tend to be very formed. And I'm putting the eye line pretty much exactly halfway between the top of the head and the chin, and putting his eyes like that. Okay. So, and a little smile like this, maybe. And I'm not sure in terms of hair, parting like that is his hair looks relatively straight. So if we bring his hair like this, does he have bangs at all? Does the hair frame the face round like that? Does it go round the top like this? You'll have to give me a little bit of a pointer in terms of how long his hair is. Do we see any of it below the ear, or is it a short back and sides? Does it come a little bit in front of the ear like this? So what I tend to do is, the hairline makes a fairly particular pattern for any person, how the top of the face is framed, or the frame of the face is created by the hair. So if the hair comes all the way across like that, that would be unusual for a boy. Even if his hair is short cropped, it'd probably be more like that. And then a little bit of roundness on the outside like this. So this is what I would imagine would be a reasonable representation of a 10-year-old boy. He's starting to get that slightly, I'm shooting up, I'm starting to grow, a bit of a growth spurt, I'm getting a bit lankier. Arms and legs are reasonably long, but not, he hasn't shot up, so he hasn't got long legs. We're giving him a longish t-shirt like this. And what I can do is just go in and make that even longer here. So if we have the t-shirt long like that, and we can put the stripes in, just make the stripes follow the kind of contour of the t-shirt. And the stripes, you could, on his sleeves, you just want this sleeve to overlap over the torso of his shirt. And then here, the torso of his body, let me give you a different color so that you can see what I'm doing. Here, because he's turned slightly to the left, the torso here will overlap a little bit in front of that arm, so obscure it slightly. This leg of his trousers we'll see more of this leg and less of this one because his trousers are overlapping a little bit. So we've got this leg here, which is closer to us and we can see more of. And the far leg we don't see so much of. And then here, this sleeve is overlapping a little bit. Make sure I get those stripes going in the right direction. And let me just erase a little bit here so that we can see his arm. So his arm's going to overlap his body a little bit here because arms, we don't tend to hold our arms out separate from our body. So if we do that and that is pretty much the length of him. So that's really, really rough. Launching into red like that, just to give a sense of the important points here. So here I've got a hint of a shoe, probably a sneaker or something pointing that way. We'll see this sneaker from the side, but the full length of it. The far toe of this sneaker will just peep out from in front of the closer sneaker. The trousers like this, we can see the full leg of this one, which is closest to us. The far leg is slightly overlapping behind. And stripes coming down the body, long t-shirt, soft little nose, relatively soft round face, ear low, so we want the ear to be low on the head and below the eye line. Okay, can you see the tip of the ear is only just there on the eye line? And then we just need to decide how his face and hair actually overlap or frame each other around the top of the head. Okay, so that is how I would suggest you continue working on your 10-year-old for now.